Welcome to Fortune and Friendship, the podcast where we believe that your most valuable asset is your network. I'm your host, Corey McNabb, and each week we'll connect with inspiring guests who are making waves in their fields. Together, we'll explore how collaboration and friendship can lead to incredible opportunities and success. Each episode, you'll hear from entrepreneurs, creative investors, and thought leaders who will share what they're currently working on and how we can join forces to create something amazing. Whether you're looking to expand your own network or discover new ways to collaborate, you'll find actionable insights and fresh ideas right here. So let's settle in and remember, it's not who you know that counts, it's who knows you. Welcome back to Fortune and Friendship, guys. So, this is a little side note before we bring up our special guest. I've been reading a book that just appeared on my doorstep the other day, and it's called Never Play It Safe. And one of the big things it talks about is making mistakes and failure and all that stuff. And I bring that up because I just noticed that in that intro video, I had the wrong episode number. So, guys, I will fix that next time. It'll be better. That being said, that out of the way, let's get our special guest up here. Today, we're having the pleasure to chat with Mr. Timothy Kolb. Timothy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. So this is the first time I'm really getting to chat with you. Looks like you're in an awesome spot. I love how trimmed your beard is. I wish I could keep mine maintained. I had to trim my mustache because we got too unruly. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so originally from the Tampa Bay, Florida area, born and raised there. Went into the military mid-20s, saw quite a bit of America doing that. Loved it. After that, got out, moved back home to Florida and met my wife. Been with her about 10 years now. And then we moved about 18 months ago out here to rural Tennessee to kind of live the dream of kind of a homestead, a lot of land, just kind of detach from society if we want to, but also be close enough to still get the basic needs. So today we're here. We're loving the weather and the snowfall and the seasons and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where we are today. But the journey starts a long time ago for sure.
Okay. So I definitely want to get to that journey. But I'm curious, you said rural Tennessee. What part of Tennessee are you in?
Yeah, we're about probably about a half hour outside of Johnson City, Tennessee, and about an hour directly north of Asheville, North Carolina. So we're just kind of on the most eastern portion of Tennessee as you can be in the mountains. So it's beautiful.
Okay. How did y'all handle the hurricane? Did it hit y'all at all?
So, being from Florida, we were pretty, we're accustomed, but the area here isn't. So it was kind of interesting because when we lived in Florida, we dealt with it all the time. You get tons of warnings. But up here, it was kind of like there wasn't a lot of conversation about what was truly coming. And then the infrastructure itself really wasn't capable of handling it. I mean, we had so many trees and power lines and flash flooding all over. For example, I went out to get ice at 8 o'clock in the morning because the power went out. And when I came back, one of the roads that leads to my house was flash flooding and shut down. So I had to drive basically another half hour around to the other side of the road. When I got there, they wouldn't let me up either because there was power lines down. So it was just like in a matter of an hour, it like flipped completely. So it was a pretty surreal experience. I mean, a lot of people suffered. So, our issues were very small, but we didn't have power or water for about a week. And there's still people out here that are without power and utilities. So it's pretty wild.
Man.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, so I'm in northeastern Georgia.
Okay. So you got a little bit of it.
A little bit, but not what we thought we were going to get. It because I work as a firefighter, and so we were prepared. We had all our stuff. We were ready to go. And then it seemed like the hurricane was coming right at us, and then shifted to the right and went right around us. So,
Wow. Yeah.
of course, at the
It was,
time, I was like, oh, "Go ahead."
I was going to say it was more of a rain event was the issue here. Like the wind was very little. It was just the rain and then obviously the trees and the mountainous terrain. The flooding was just unbelievable. I mean, again, we've been through so many in Florida. I mean, every year, right? And then we get up here to witness the flooding. I had never seen anything like that. It was pretty wild.
Right. And there are ways to mitigate that, but that stuff would have need to be in place decades ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the infrastructure is the problem, you know.
Yeah.
And again, it's never happened, so you know.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, good to know you're not actually that far. You're probably 3-4 hours, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say Northeast. You've got to be. Last time I was in the northeastern of Georgia area was like the Blue Ridge area. So I don't know how close you are to that, but we like it.
A little more east than that, but yeah.
Okay.
So we're about 2 hours from Greenville.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And it's about 3 hours to Asheville from here.
Cool.
So, well, sweet, man. All right, so let's go back to your story. All right, so
Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. Want to hear it all?
So basically, I started just trying to figure out what to do with my life, right? Like, how do I become successful in whatever that looked like? So I think early 20s, I kind of just dove into all types of sports, military, political type books of like successful men, right? Trying to figure it out. Somehow it led me to a path of finding like similar storylines amongst different types of successful individuals. So I thought, well, let's just start with the military, right? See where it leads me. So I joined, right? I served, met a ton of good people in the military that kind of like took me and saw the potential or the thought of potential that I was like, hey, I want to be something, right? Can you kind of help me, push me somewhere, right? So I kind of went that route. Again, saw what they did, kind of understood what success looked like for me at the time, and just continued to be like proficient at my job. And then on the off time, figure out how to build wealth or be a leader, anything to like develop myself continuously, which again, it didn't lead to real estate for a long time, but it eventually got me there. So I kind of stayed in that military mindset, got through my 4 years. I think one of the biggest factors in my life is I didn't get picked up for officer school because I applied 3 times, never got it. On my last application, my commanding officer was like, "You're a shoo-in." I mean, when I have like a commander of our base telling me that I'm going to get it, I'm pretty much like, "Yeah, okay, sure." I'm 25 years old. This guy's been with the military for 30, 40 years. He's telling me I'm in. I'm not even going to think about anything else. So I didn't get it, and that was the decision to get out because I knew that I was capable of more, and they weren't giving me that opportunity, and I wanted to make something more of myself. So I actually got out, and it's probably my biggest failure, but turned into like my greatest blessing because I met my wife literally a week after I got out. That was kind of the process. I went through the service, then I got into a leadership development program in the corporate environment in healthcare. So I did that and did really well and got promoted pretty quickly in 3 years with that company. So again, just staying in the leadership realm, staying in corporate, don't really have an understanding of real estate at this point, but I'm making decent money. I'm investing in my 401k plan. I'm using their employee stock purchase plan. I'm pretty frugal. Like I'm not spending any money. I'm saving almost everything I'm making. That kind of thing. I go and get my master's at night. Again, just trying to check the box to move up the corporate chain as quickly as I can. Using my benefits from the military. So it was pretty much looking back at it. These were some great hacks that I didn't realize what I was doing, but I did them. So in the military, there's a post 9/11 bill, which you can use to pay for your school. So I already had my undergrad degree, but you can use it to get your graduate degree, and they pay you a stipend every month, pay for all your school and pay for your books. So I was making, I think at the time, like $2,000 a month, and they were paying for my school. So I was getting that $2,000 tax-free plus my salary. So I was doing really well at that time, but I was just plowing money in the stock market, savings, and, my 401k, which was interesting. So I kept doing that, right? I got into, so my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, my mother-in-law, was a realtor. This is kind of where the light bulb started to happen. She helped me get a property for us to move into. And I used the VA loan. Again, didn't have a ton of understanding, but she was like, oh, you can get a house for barely, like nothing out of pocket, right? Instead of paying your rent that you guys are paying every month. And I was like, I don't really understand, but sure, like that sounds great. So she gave me a book, and I went on a bachelor cruise. Like my buddies, one of the guys was getting married, and I just disappeared the whole weekend and read that book. Like I opened it, I read it, and I'm like, this sounds awesome, right? I think it was called Build. So it's like showing you like how to buy real estate, what it can turn into, wealth, blah, 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 blah. So I went down the rabbit hole, and when I got off that ship, I was like, I'm buying a house, right? So fast forward a little bit, I'm still in corporate, and we find a house, and I put, I think like 3 or 4% down on like a $200,000 house. And then my wife and I fix it up over a 2-year period. We do basically, today it's known as a live and flip. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but there was tons of things that we fixed in it. And after a 3-year period, we sold it. And I walked away with like a 6-figure profit. And at that point, I was like, I'm no longer climbing the corporate ladder. I got to figure out how to stay in real estate and build wealth. And that was kind of like the light bulb moment. And that's when I took everything from that 6-figure sale, right? Because we were moving, which we actually moved to Asheville. I took that and I plowed it into rentals. And that's kind of where everything kind of just started to take off. So it's pretty wild, but that was the beginning of like the light bulb moment for me.
Okay. So, and so it's funny because a lot of people get started by reading a book, but typically, and to be honest, this is the first time I've heard somebody say they read a book and got into real estate, and it wasn't Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. Yep, it's true. I started backwards. Like I got into that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Bigger Pockets after the first, like, I wouldn't call it a true exit, but like the sale of our personal residence and a live and flip. That's when I found Bigger Pockets, like 2018. So I didn't know what I was doing, right? But I knew enough to be like, I think I'm going in the right direction with this, So I started backwards on it completely.
Yeah.
Like there's so many more examples of it too. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it, but there's other things of like, I bought a couple rentals before I did a house hack, right? Like, and anyone that asks me now, they're like, what would you do first? And I'd be like, if I could do it again, I would do a house hack, right? Because I can leverage things, which I did a house hack like after I had 6 rentals, right? So like I was doing things differently, but then as I figured out what made more sense, I kind of refined the process and tweaked things, to kind of fit our lifestyle. So
after the live and flip, you bought your next house and some rentals, or did
this is good. So we were getting married. We sold the house. It sold in a February month. I think it was 2018. We bought it 2015. Again, 2015 to 2018, I'm just making good money, living a very comfortable life with my girlfriend, who's to be my wife, saving, investing in the stock market. That's it. 2018, we're fixing the house, doing things that make sense as a young couple, right? For a starter home. And then 2018 comes and we're like, we're getting married. We're going to go on a crazy honeymoon and we're going to move to Asheville. That's what kind of came up because we love hiking. We love the outdoor life, right? So that's like, okay, let's list the house. once I did like a comp experiment, right, to figure out what I thought it was worth. Then I spoke to my mother-in-law. She gave me the dollar amount. I'm like, I don't believe that. And then we tried to find the best realtor in the area. And she came back and says, I think it's worth this, but shoot for the stars. Let's list it at this. So we listed it at what she told us, which was like I think it was like 350. And that was like the moment we got an offer within 24 hours from a sight unseen from a person in California. So when that happened, I was like, all right, like that's amazing. That's setting us up. So we were taking that money, weren't reinvesting it in a personal residence, but basically moving to Asheville and renting there after our wedding. So got married in Asheville, went on a honeymoon, which was unbelievable. We basically house hacked our wedding. I'm sorry, we basically hacked our wedding with different things, but it cost me only like $2,000 out of pocket, and we went to Italy for 30 days. So we essentially had an amazing experience, and then came back, signed a lease at an apartment, and then took that money from the sale of our personal residence and bought 5 rentals with it, like down payments.
Man, what time of the year did y'all get married?
We got married in April, so end of April in 2018.
Okay, I got married October of 2018.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we got married there, actually. We were going to just do an elopement, which was going to just be a family. And then we had a couple friends that were a little bit like, hey, we want to be a part of it. So we did like a small thing with like 20 people, family, friends in Asheville. We actually threw our like after elopement ceremony at Wicked Weed Brewery in Asheville. So it was very small and intimate and fun. And then we went to Italy for a month and then came back and, started regular life again. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm guessing you weren't just in one spot in Italy for a month.
No, this kind of speaks to who we are. Like, we love adventure and hiking. So early in our relationship, we did a lot of these types of trips. We went to Rome, Cinque Terre, Florence. There's a couple other places. Venice, Naples, Positano, Amalfi Coast. So we bounced around everywhere. We were basically in different places for 4 to 7 days, depending on the location. Started up north, went to Milan, started up north, and worked our way south. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, sounds like it. For our honeymoon, we went to Jamaica, and we spent 2 weeks.
Honestly, that's probably enough. I would say, like, it was an amazing time, but I think by the end we were like, okay, we're very excited to go home, to get just live our normal life.
So I think 2 weeks would be fine if you're moving around a lot. But we were at one resort for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And got a little
all-inclusive type thing?
Yeah. But the problem is that by day like 9 or whatever, we had done everything.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the time we're just kind of hanging out. Not really sure what to do.
See, that's interesting because we thought that's what we wanted to do, and then we kind of flipped the script, and it was so much fun, but we were also exhausted. Like, we would get up early, go get it, wouldn't even be breakfast, just like coffee of some sort and a pastry, and then we would be gone all day, come back, take a shower, go to dinner, and then basically zonk out and do it again. So like, we did the complete opposite, and it was exhausting. So it's almost like you got to find the happy medium between both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But awesome. Okay, so you get back from Italy.
Yeah.
And then you're renting out a place, you start buying rentals, and you said you ended up buying 6 rentals before you decided to house hack. Were you renting that whole time?
So we moved to Asheville, right, 2019, and buy 5 rentals. I'm working remotely because my company, I didn't even tell you this, I basically turned in my resignation. It was like, I'm moving. At this point, I was working in the office, and my wife was like, just resign and see what happens. I was like, that doesn't work with me, but I'll take your word for it. So I messaged, my boss, and I'm like, because I'm in office, I'm like, hey, I'm moving to Asheville, and I'm going to Italy, right? And I'm getting married. So I don't think you're going to want to keep me. I'm going to be gone for like 45 days and then I'm not coming back, right? And they were like, call me when you get back. We'll figure it out. At this point, we'll just put you on leave. And I'm like, okay. So I leave. I use PTO. I think I had like 2 or 3 weeks. So, make some money there. I get back from the trip. We're in Asheville. I call my boss and she's like, you're going to stay remote and we're going to keep you and we're going to create a job for you. So that was like life-changing, right? Because I've been in the office at this point. This is pre-COVID. And I'm like, okay, sure. So they mail me a laptop and then they create like a position for me where I report into her and I just do projects for her. So for like 2019 to 2020, I have the rentals. I'm working remote. I'm living in Nashville. I really don't have any staff. I went from having anywhere from 10 staff up to upwards of 100, depending on the position over my healthcare career. At this point, I'm by myself, right? And I'm like living the dream. So I do the work, but I'm really like starting to explore real estate heavily, right? And I'm like split 50-50 on like my time. And that's kind of like 2019. And then COVID hits, right? COVID kind of changed the game. And we ended up, because we didn't know, we ended up leaving Asheville and moving back home just to be close to family. Once the sanctions and stuff like that were lifted, we moved back to Florida just to kind of be close. We just were uncomfortable with what was happening. Thought the world was ending, right? So we decided to move back to Florida at that point in 2020. That's when I started house hacking.
Gotcha.
So like that's the next step. Yeah, it's like I probably would have kept buying rentals and or bought something in Asheville that house hacked, but it was a life-changing event, right? So we moved back to Florida, and I lock up a duplex off market, and that's the first. And I used the VA loan. I put no money down, and I got a rate under 3%, and that was like a game changer for us when it came to like wealth building.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So you locked up the duplex off market. What about your other rentals? How did you find those? How did you finance them?
Yeah. So very just simple stuff. So 20, as you know, from like basically up till 2022, the rates were just so good. So I would just save. I bought the first 5, right, with that big lump sum. So it was just down payment. I found a realtor. I found a property manager. I found, a maintenance team if I needed them, and just did it that way. I read, talk about books, out of state investing, like David Green's book on Bigger Pockets. I read, or Long Distance Real Estate Investing. I read that, and I just took that as like a blueprint. I'm like, I can do this. Like there's Midwest markets that you can get into for 18 grand. Like I remember my first deal, I paid 18 grand out of pocket to get it, with down payment and closing costs. And it was renting almost like 1.5-2% rule at that point. So I just kept doing that, right, as quickly as I could up until COVID. So I can't remember COVID if I had 6 or 7 at the time. I don't remember. But it was less than 10, right, and more than 5. So I just rinse and repeat. I would save enough money, get 20, 30K saved, and buy. Rates, I don't think any of my rates were ever over 5.5% initially. So everything was cash flowing right away on those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even learn about real estate until after we bought this house, which was May of 2020.
Okay. Yep.
Right.
It's interesting, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And then, so we bought this house in May. We had our first kid in June.
Okay.
And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Nice.
And
honestly, I read that book too, and it was later, but man, it's like it's mindset shift for sure.
Oh yeah. And the only reason I read it is because the title. I was like, well, now I'm a dad. I don't want to be a dad, so I might as well learn how to be a rich dad.
Yeah. Well, the pictures in there and the simplistic nature of it. I mean, anything Bigger Pockets was putting out like from 18 to like 2021. Like I went through everything: books, podcasts, articles, blog posts. I mean, I was just like going 100 miles an hour on it. I mean, I was spending all my days learning and absorbing what people
Right.
were doing, because I think that's the game, right? If you can figure out what you relatively like and you can find people that are successful and then you just replicate it and then attempt to like modify it or enhance it to fit your life. I mean, that's the secret sauce out there. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that was up to, what did you say,
like
around 20?
2020, yeah, because we
Oh,
with COVID and whatnot, we bought the duplex off market. It closed in October of 2020.
oh,
Yeah, that was kind of like there was like a 6 month period where that's where we moved back. We were figuring out what we were going to do. I was trying to find a property to buy. So that was kind of like where we ended up getting that duplex in St. Petersburg area in Florida.
gotcha. So you're house hacking. Are you still buying rentals during that time, or are
So
you kind
I
of families?
bought. It's crazy. The last one I closed on, I'll never forget this, was March 12th, 2020. I closed the day the stock market just like sank. I remember the moment because I remember like COVID was like an outbreak. It was March 12th. It's a close friend of mine's birthday. And I just remember the government coming on to like, just any sort of media outlet that you had. And it was basically saying, we don't know what's happening, this a serious outbreak, blah, 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 blah. And I remember the stock market dropping that day. And I closed that morning on a property. So like March 12th, 2020, I bought one. I had another one under contract that was supposed to close in May. And I said, I can't do this. Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm not comfortable. Wish I would have bought it. But you don't know in the moment. So I stopped buying at that point and was really focused on finding a personal residence for her and I. That made sense. So an investment property, but we could also live in it. So that
Right.
took me like 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a crazy time.
Yeah, it was
Um,
wild. It was wild.
so, and well, I mean, we don't have to get into all that. Just how ridiculous.
Yeah. Washing
Um,
your hands and just everything. I mean, going to the grocery store was like an expedition. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, it gave me time though. I think the only thing I can take from all of the craziness for me personally was it gave me time to like dive even deeper into like, what am I going to do to build during this time of like inaction for the world, like, so I just took the time and again just dove deeper into books, podcasts, blogs, introspection. What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Just got to take advantage of it in some way.
Yep. All right. So we're getting close to present. So what point during that time, you said you were building, um,
Yeah, I
when did
think.
you really start getting back into it, and where are you at today?
Yeah, so the creative side of all this kind of came in. I bought the house hack, right? So we move into it. We have to fix the exterior. The interior is completely remodeled, but the exterior wasn't. So we put some money into the exterior. We move into the 1-1. There's a 2-1 and a 1-1. We move into the 1-1. I rent out the 2-1. So basically, we live in the 1-1. We fix the exterior, and then the 2-1 tenant is there for 6 months. They move out. We move into the 2-1, move in somebody into the 1-1, and we are starting to flip the garage into a studio. So I turned it into a triplex. The reason I did that was several reasons, but I wanted to live for free, right, and or make money off the property while I'm there. And things weren't penciling, so I couldn't, as rates were coming up. It wasn't making sense to buy more rentals when I could just flip something that I didn't have to finance and make significant amount of rental income off of it. So at that point, I did that, right? So that was significantly more because I was buying homes with a down payment from like anywhere from 15 to 30K. The studio flip was a little bit more expensive because we went high end, and we put about 70 to 80K into the studio flip, and then we rented it for like 1850 a month. So it was a higher dollar point, but I had the capital and it made sense to just plow it into the house.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, we do that. We rent out the studio, the 1-1, and we're in the 2-1. I'll go through it quick, but then my wife and I were like, we're kind of like wanting to be nomads, right? So we go on a 6-month road trip. We rent out the 2-1, rent out the 1-1 in the studio, and then we go out west for 6 months and we just travel to all different national parks, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, all these things, and just live the dream for 6 months, and doing really well with the rental income. And during that time frame, I got a little crazy and picked up a second remote job. So I have 2 healthcare gigs at the same time. Everything's remote, independent of each other, and I'm making pretty solid W-2 income, right? So I'm making that dollar amount. I got the rentals. Everything's kind of just buzzing. Like I'm working hard, but I'm having fun. I'm hiking. I'm seeing crazy things. Basically that year, 2022. So 2021 we bought it, or 2020 we bought it. 2021 we just kind of did the flip, and then 2022 we're traveling significantly. So I think we were gone 9 out of the 12 months in 2022, and then once we get back, it kind of dawns on me of like the same process of just buying something and renting it out isn't working. So I'm like, what am I going to do, right? Like I got to figure out a new model. And that's when I came across Pace Morby stuff in the Gator community. I found it, and I took a weekend. I think at the time, I want to say it was like $4,000 or something like that. So I bought the mastermind. I went through the Gator stuff in literally like 4 days, just cranked it, did nothing else. And then I came out of it of like, I think I figured it out. Like I think I got a plan. And that's when I got into the creative financing stuff. And then 2023, we're basically starting that, building my own LLC, all that stuff, trying to find the right relationships, still working the 2 jobs, moving to Tennessee, right? Found the home, our dream home, lifestyle, etc. And then 2024, things really took off with the private money and earnest money and the Gator concept. So I quit both jobs in 2024, and now I'm doing this full time on the private money side. And I've got my own system, I got my own network, and I lean on them heavily to kind of, from a borrower standpoint, from a lending standpoint, and from a TC standpoint, and then I just kind of rinse and repeat. And this year I've done just over 50 deals. I think I'll probably hit 60 to 65 by the end of the year, and total money being lent out is just under 4 million by the end of the year. And I'm making more or the same amount today that I was with my 2 W-2s. So yeah, it's been a crazy kind of rocket ship from 2023 to 2024 of like, I want to get out of corporate. How do I do it? And honestly, the Gator community and the mastermind was the conceptual thought of like, this is how you can do it for me.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. So what are you mostly focused on? Lending, obviously, but I guess my question is, what is the average type of deal for you?
Yeah, so I've got 5 borrowers that I've vetted, right, that I've done deals with, had exits with. They all have a different type of business model. And they're all in different regions. And then I would say I've done anything as low as like 20,000 all the way upwards of like $500,000. But I would say the sweet spot is really like the 75 to 150 mark. I feel like most of my deals fall in that criteria. But again, I've got 5 different borrowers that do different things. So it really depends on what their needs are, and the terms and the lengths are all based on their business model. So I'm doing anything from basically 3 months upwards of 12. I've done a couple terms that are 3 months and it will pay out way earlier. But I would say that's usually that's the most common. So
gotcha. And so your borrowers, I know you said they all have different business plans.
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing like flips?
Yeah, I can give you some basic information. One are like ground up construction. One is fix and flips. One's is a wholesaler, right? And then other one is buying and reselling of land. And then I got a guy that also does fix and flips in a very different region out west. So all of them have their own niche. I mean, they're all pretty common, right? But they all do their own thing. And it's the same model every time for them, which makes it
Gotcha.
easier, as in my position is I've already had exits with them, right? I know what to expect. I can share the experience and the documentation that supports my exits with potential lenders. I think from a underwriting and screening standpoint, if you can find good borrowers, right, that have good deals and they do volume, it really can speed up your business process, to scale.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you know anybody doing rehabs in and around Chattanooga, Tennessee?
I don't, and it's funny you say that. I actually was like, you know what, I want to find some because we kind of planted our flag. We're going to be in Eastern Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually looking to find a vetted borrower here because again, everything I've done has been non-local. Everybody is in different places. It's all out of state for wherever my location is. And at this point, I want to find like that one borrower in Eastern Tennessee that I can, I can visit, right? If we need to, or I can build that
Right.
personal relationship outside of phone calls and video chats.
Oh, I got you. I mean, my plan is eventually I want to buy a farm and move up near Chattanooga, if not right
Love it.
there, Cleveland, Tennessee, Ocoee area.
Mm-hmm. That's a great
Um,
area.
oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's so beautiful.
Um, but I actually just got tagged in a post on Facebook. Somebody has a sub two out in Cleveland, Tennessee, and so that's who I was on the phone with when you jumped on.
Oh yeah, nice. So we bought this property. We got 25 acres, and we're clearing some of the land. Like over time, like we cleared several trees to put a garden in. We've got an area where my wife wants to get a horse and maybe a couple goats. So we want something very similar of like that self-sustaining garden farm life, rural life. I don't want to be running a farm per se, but I would like to have enough to experience it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the horse gonna do?
My wife loves horses. I have. Uh, this is not my area. So she's the MVP of the family, right? She's like the quarterback. She runs everything when it comes to like our domestic life. So I just like I'm there for support.
Gotcha.
That's kind of her domain. She loves horses. She rides horses. Our daughter, she wants to be a horse lover. So I think that's just like the indoctrination and the excuse to get a horse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I don't. My mentality. I know that horses are stupid expensive.
Oh, it's like a boat in Florida, right? I tell her that all the
Yeah.
time. Like, it's not just the price tag to get in.
No, no. And
So,
if you have land to house it, that takes a little bit of the expense away. But like I know people who have horses that not only had to pay for the horse, but they have to pay someone else to keep the horse on their land, and they've got to pay for all the food, and they're spending
yeah,
like a couple grand a month on a horse.
yeah. I'm not looking forward to this. I hope like. I want you to know that this isn't like
No.
something I'm interested in with the horse. The garden's cool. I love the garden, but the horse is not financially.
And
It's
that's
not ideal.
that's what because when we were planning out our farm, like we want all of it, right? Um, my daughter was like, "And we'll get a horse," and I was like, "If we're gonna get a horse, we're gonna make sure we have a plow. That horse is going to work. It's not just gonna walk
Yeah,
around."
it's got to contribute,
You know?
right? Like
Yeah.
we have chickens, and the chickens took forever to lay their eggs, and I'm like, they've got to contribute at some point. Like they've got to do their job. So,
Yep. We got chickens too. Right now, we're on just under an acre.
okay.
Um, and so it'll be a big leap because the farm we're looking to start, in my mind, is around 200 acres.
Oh wow,
So,
that's a big leap.
yeah.
That's cool though, man.
Um,
That's the dream, right? You gotta follow the
yeah.
dream.
Yeah. And so our goal is to do a restoration agriculture type farm where it's mostly
Nice.
perennial. Um, trying to change how people eat.
Man, you and my wife should have a conversation. She loves that stuff. The restoration. I mean, we were pretty blown away about this area. We didn't expect to have all that restorative type of food or those options here in Eastern Tennessee. And we were so happy. I mean, the
Oh, yeah.
farms here and the food is just like, if you go to the markets, it's impressive.
Well, like mountainous areas kind of have to be that way.
Yeah, it's a good
The
point.
land's not conducive to large fields of corn and stuff like that. Absolutely, you can do it, and we have large fields of corn here. Um, but like once you get into like North Carolina and Tennessee, where it's very mountainous, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to switch methods. You're gonna have to plant trees and stuff like that. That's gonna produce. So
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I'm learning a ton of that. Like she's obsessed with that stuff. Like I'm the personal finance, wealth building, real estate, sports. Like those are my interests. Stoicism, philosophy, all that stuff. Like this is me. And then when it comes to like the health, like she's changed the game for all of us. Like our families like listen to her and they all change and make changes for the better. So like the amount of just the healthy types of things she's brought into our life, and then the lifestyle we have. I mean, I just feel so much better today than I did 10 years ago. It's wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's like so. It really started to change for me. My wife grew up in a family that was, oh, GMOs are bad. Oh, all this stuff is bad. And so she was very strict on what she ate, and to the point
Hmm.
that for a long time she had an eating disorder. Um, and then she got with me, and I was like, that's dumb. Eat what you want. We're here for a short time or a good time, not a long time, that type of thing.
Hmm. Heard that
Um,
before.
yep, yep. And then we got fat. Um, and it wasn't until, what was it? Beginning of 2023. Um, my wife was like, not super happy with how we look. I just heard about this program called 75 Hard. Let's give that a shot. So I was like, all right, I'll do it with you. And I had already tried it the year before, by myself. She didn't remember that. But I was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. And so we did it. We went through all of last year. I ended up dropping 35 pounds.
Nice,
Um,
man.
and that's, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about 75 Hard, but Andy Frisella, the guy who created it, he's
Yep, I
started
do.
releasing new American Freedom gear. That's what this flag is.
Oh, he's
Um,
awesome.
oh
I
yeah.
love him. He's great.
There's actually a gear drop on Friday at
Okay.
at noon for us, I think.
I just listened to one of his podcasts yesterday, and he mentioned. I mean, I've heard of it, but then he walked through that as well. The 75 hard thing. It's awesome. I haven't done that, but I'm pretty much a savage when it comes to reading and working out and doing all the things you can to like set yourself up for success. I think I would say that's probably my cheat code. Is like even if I'm super sick, like I'm working out, like I'm
Yeah,
reading my book or I'm doing this, like it's going to happen. It's part of the day. It's getting done, you know?
right.
So,
No, I was all about it while we were doing it, and then I didn't get the results that I was hoping for. Not
hmm.
because the program was flawed or anything, but because of the route that I took in the program. Um, so in my mind, I was like, oh, I need like a nutritionist and a personal trainer to help me out with this.
Hmm.
And of course, when you start, guys, if you haven't figured this out, when you start thinking those types of things, like I need this to grow, it's gonna show up. Like as soon as I started thinking that, I ended up working a shift with a coworker who just became a nutrition and personal trainer coach,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Yeah, come on." So I ended up getting on with him, and now he's my coach, and it's been great. It has been helpful, but I noticed that they're actually a little too relaxed. And one of the great things about 75 Hard is that it's black and white. Either you win the day or you fail.
Yep.
And if you fail, you start over. Like, it's that simple. And so I've had to kind of retrofit this new program with that mentality. But no, it's been great, and that's really what's changed my viewpoint. Because like I had said, I was very much, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah, you've come a long way. I mean, that's a big shift for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's hard to get rid of, you know. I mean, really.
But now I'm sitting here like, I'm eating too many carbs. I need to go back on carnivore. Like, that's everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, absolutely. I'd love to talk to your wife about farming stuff.
Yeah, she's changed so much of the stuff in our lives. I told her, like, she's not career driven or anything like that. You know, she takes care of the family, like she's the head of the household when it comes to domestic life. But I told her, like, if you ever had interest, you would crush it in this space, because there's so many people that need the education, right? Or don't even know, right? And if you brought it to them, it's like, yeah, of course I would do that, because it makes me feel better. You know, it's wild.
Yeah. You don't have kids?
Yeah, we just had our first. Well, it feels like it just happened, but we have one, a baby girl, Madison. She's a year and a few months old. So that's been like, we moved to Tennessee when my wife was in her like 8 months, just a little less than 8 months. So like, it was a crazy time in our life, but we did it. So yeah, we've been here. So she's born and raised in Tennessee, which is cool, which is what we wanted, you know?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the same for us. Our first, we were renting, and we had the nursery all set up, and then started noticing prices drop. So we were like, oh, let's buy a house. And so then we bought this one, and she was 36 weeks.
Wow. Okay. I feel like it happens more than you would think. Like, I've like told other people, like, oh yeah, we did that too. And I'm like, why do we do this to ourselves? You know? It's like more stress.
We kept having to tell her, because she kept trying to get up on chairs and put stuff away, and we were like, sit down. Let us do that.
Stop doing things.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, man, I'll be honest, I got a little carried away talking about it. It was just super easy to talk to, and I love that. But if you don't mind, let's move on to the last part of our show.
Sure, of course.
So just a few questions, pretty basic. First, what made you want to be on the podcast today?
Well, I think I'm, again, a big podcast guy myself, always listening. Social media, I'm more of an observer and all that kind of thing. But I realized, if you're looking to like scale a business or do things a certain way, right, you kind of have to put yourself out there. And this is the first time I've ever done a podcast. And I think for me, it's taking that step to kind of build the platform, right, and find an audience that's interested in what I have to offer.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of what you have to offer, somebody reaches out to you and wants to work with you. What value can you provide them?
Yeah, I think, well, I've done hundreds of deals, whether it's creatively, personally, with my own portfolio. So I have the experience and track record that shows performance, right? So I think that's something I can offer. I'm my own boss, and I'm looking to kind of grow in this space and become, better every day at something. So I think from that standpoint, I have skills and experience and a track record of success.
Awesome. Okay. And then on the other side of that person that's coming to you, wants to work with you, what kind of value are you hoping they bring to you?
Yeah, I think it's two parts, right? I think in a general sense, you've got to show. I mean, I feel like it's, in my experience, it's pretty evident when someone who comes to you wants to learn and grow. I wasn't handheld in that space, right? I had to like put the work in to become something that I thought was good, right? So I think when you have people reach out, the story will tell itself, right? If I get someone that reaches out and they want to be a part of it or they want to do something, they're going to continuously follow up with me, right? They're going to if I tell them to do something and they do it and they come back to me, you know that person has a real drive to do it. So that's kind of like the first sniff test. And then the other part is in this space, right? It's usually deal flow and money, right? I mean, that's kind of what's always needed. It's the ebb and flow. You don't want to have too much deal flow and not enough money, and too much money and not enough deal flow. So I think those two areas are pretty crucial when it comes to like tactically what you would be looking for. And then the other part is, at some point I'm in the business every day, and the goal for me is not to be in it every day. I've got to build it and be comfortable to hand that off. But I think it's also bringing in somebody that could help on the ops side of the day-to-day of what I do.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what is some advice that you would have for someone newer into the game?
Yeah, I think, so I always think about like what made me, at least in my definition of success, happen, right? And I think it's that daily routine. For me, it's like I've got to sweat. Which is working out, right? I've got to read something or something thought-provoking. And then I've got to have some sort of stillness in my day. And honestly, I hate to use that as like those buzzwords of like, you've got to have a routine to be successful, because you don't. But I think for me, a daily routine was critical to like prime myself and get me going in the right direction. If I could get a sweat in, if I could listen in a quiet space just to myself of what I thought needed to be done, and then if I could read something that would drive me or find something that's thought-provoking to push me to the next level or get me to that next stage of curiosity, I think that was important for me. I would say everyone's got their own needs, but I would say figure out every day what you need to do to make yourself become the best self, and then you literally do it every day. There's a quote that I've used, that I've heard, and it's not mine, but I kind of used to live by it. It's basically to live like others won't, so you can live like others can't, right? So for me, it was like I wanted to become financially free. So what did I do early on? It was, be extremely frugal and improve my earning power, right? And now I've achieved that financial freedom, right? Because I started living like others wouldn't, so that I could live like others can't, because most people aren't financially free, right? So like that quote has kind of been my mantra for a long time. And honestly, I think I got it off a Bigger Pockets podcast or somewhere, right? It's not something I created, but it's definitely something simple that you can think about every day, right? And it drives your actions.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely agree with the routine thing. And I'm sorry, if you're the type of person that you're like, oh, routine and schedules, they don't work. Even if you don't have a set routine, you have a routine.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
Whether it's you wake up, you go brush your teeth, whatever, like the things you do every day, that is your routine.
Yeah.
All we're talking about is structuring it in a way to fit the goals you're going after.
And fit your schedule. Like, so very high level, like my wife sleeps a little later, I get up a little earlier. So I would honestly like 6 a.m. until before we had a baby, right? So like 6 a.m. to like 8:30 was Tim time, right? I could just crank it all out, work out, read, all these things and knock them out before she ever got up. And then I could still live our life together. Now with the baby, it's a little different, but it's still a set 24 hours. You don't need to sleep more than 6 to 8, right? So you still have that 16 to 18 hours a day to get it done. There's no excuses. I mean, that's it. You just got to figure out how to fit it in. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so Tim, somebody does want to work with you. How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, I think the best way is email. I'm also in, if it's a Gator, I'm on Facebook. I'm in the Gator community, but I think email is the best way. At Timothy Kolb at gmail.com. And then I do have Instagram as well. I'm like I said, I'm not a big social media guy, but I'm on it. I observe things. I'm always connected to the email, Instagram, and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, guys, there you go. If you want to do a deal with Tim, if you want to become his borrower in East Tennessee, reach out to him.
Exactly.
Hit him up on Instagram. But other than that, Tim, that's all I got, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Corey. Hopefully we can do it again, and looking forward to it. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's our show. Come back next week. You know these drop every Monday. See who we got. I hope you liked this one. And if you did, be sure to like and subscribe. And, guys, have a wonderful... Oh, man. What's up, bro?
What's up, brother?
Totally jumped in. Did I give you the wrong link? See, guys, I don't edit these, so you will all see my mistakes. And we're talking about mistakes here. It's happened.
I'll be back, bro.
Anyways, yeah, a little early. I apologize. There's a sneak peek for next week.
Just for nice. Nice.
There you go.
Thanks, Corey.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. Peace be with you. Be safe.